Hello, everyone, and welcome to Proficy 2024, our annual leadership strategy and product launch webinar series. My name is Jeff Bartoletti, and I'll be your host for today's session. With increasing pressure on data-driven decision-making and continuous improvement needed, putting data into context with an operations, data, and applications model is absolutely critical. Today, we'll explore how to drive agility, flexibility, and transformation by both democratizing data, centralizing, standardizing, and configuration, and enabling contextual OT visualization. We'll also learn how an enterprise-wide data and applications model can accelerate deployments, decrease maintenance, and support optimization and empower the people in our plants. The event today may include forward-looking information, so this is the safe harbor disclaimer. So please do not make any decisions based on today's presentation to make purchasing decisions. Now for some housekeeping, we'll jump into across the bottom of your screen. You're going to see an interface where you can interact with us. There's a variety of different icons and buttons, and I want to run through those just briefly. First of all, the first one is where you can ask questions. With the red, it's the number 1 on here. You can ask questions and we'll answer them at the end. So we'll queue up all the questions and answer them at the end. We also have the purple mail icon that you can contact our team. So you'll be able to leave a message and you'll be able to provide that information there. And then the most important one, I think, is the blue paperclip. And this is where you can access additional resources. So a variety of materials from today's presentation will be available there, as well as all of our other Proficy 2024 webinar series. So you can go back and watch replays of those as well. And then number 4, you can connect with our product managers. This will provide you with their LinkedIn information and all the other information where you can get in touch with one of our product managers and interact with them after these sessions. If you do have any technical problems today, you can click on that question mark, number 5 there, and get technical assistance. But often we find that the technical assistance you need can be solved by just restarting and starting your browser again, or logging out and logging back in. And then always, we like feedback from you from this webinar series, so we'd really appreciate it. At the end, we'll remind you of this again, but you can always click on item number 6, that pink little checklist icon, where you can provide us with feedback on today's webinar. So with that, I'm going to give you an overview of the whole schedule. Today, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about iFIX 2024, our HMI SCADA product. But we do have a variety coming up. So we're going to have the next one is Proficy Smart Factory. Then we have another one on Proficy Historian. Those are the 2 most recent upcoming ones. And then you'll see the whole more events schedule down here in the bottom right-hand corner. If you did miss our Portfolio Insider, I highly encourage you to go to the paperclip and go to our on-demand area on our website and watch the Portfolio Insider after this webinar to get an overview of the entire Proficy 2024 portfolio. So with that, I would like to now introduce our speaker for today, who is going to be Alec Granger, who is our Senior Product Manager for our iFIX HMI SCADA product.
Thank you. Yeah, so I would like to talk to you guys about iFIX HMI SCADA. So thank you again for joining. So we have a few things that we've been focusing on here at GE Digital within Vernova, and that's really centralized around systems of OT, or operational technology, where we are focused on enterprise scale automation. So really what we mean by that is that we understand applications are now stretching across multiple facilities. They're stretching sometimes across geographical distances. It's how do we bring that together and unify that for you, the customer, to understand how you can leverage a centralized management theme, centralized management capabilities to bring together sometimes disparate operational technology systems, and bring in both OT and IT and really evolve the SCADA experience. So it's not just a supervisory control and data acquisition for a single facility, but bringing in an IT layer, bringing in analytics, bringing in capabilities that would typically be outside of a SCADA approach to provide a more holistic automation capability. So our focus really is around, providing a very streamlined and a common user experience across everything that we do within Proficy portfolio and within everything that we do here at Vernova. And so our focus is, bringing in our, leveraging the technologies from the industry like OPC UA, MQTT, Python, leveraging that, bringing those in as standard functionality within our portfolio so that as you are adapting and adopting our portfolio into a more holistic fashion, bringing in more of what we do within the Proficy suite of tools, you can have a common experience across everything that we do. Ultimately, we're focusing on providing enterprise level scalability by pushing our SCADA capabilities to the next level, leveraging again that centralized management theme. So you can do an easy deployment, easy maintenance, and we'll show a little bit more in the coming slides about what that means in terms of your actual day-to-day activities. Ultimately, the idea here is to reduce the amount of maintenance, reduce the amount of hardware and license costs that you have to experience there, and provide a much more scalable and flexible solution as you adapt your own business to meet the needs of your customers. So in supporting that, we have focused in 2024 a lot around iFIX performance and scalability. Again, to leverage what we have done in the past and to provide a next level capabilities to focus on that enterprise scalability and automation in terms of everything that we do from an HMI SCADA perspective. So we focused a lot of our attention on alarm generation and distribution performance. As we have understood, as I mentioned earlier, applications stretching across multiple facilities, applications becoming larger than originally envisioned at many customer facilities. So understanding how do we leverage the capabilities that are available in this generation of networking, this generation of distribution capabilities from a technology perspective, and make alarm generation distribution, and ultimately SCADA more effective, right? So we're looking at, some of the things that we have set in the past from iFIX perspective. The network packet size was set, a long time ago, and we hadn't really readdressed that in terms of supporting what today's technology group. And so we increased the network packet size from 16K to 64K. And we also added what we are leveraging from 2023, where we added packet compression to our SCADA sync capabilities. We actually added packet compression to our alarms and said, well, why don't we do that? And so we went from being able to support about 4 alarms per packet to now we can support hundreds of alarms in a single packet. So this ultimately allows for a much more efficient alarm generation distribution. We also refactored how alarms are done in our system. We added additional diagnostic capabilities so that you can understand more about what's going on with your network. And we also added some more capabilities around how the system efficiently passes this information across multiple nodes. So ultimately, we see in our own internal testing, we're seeing 80% reduction in alarm generation and distribution performance. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here shortly. We also focused on workspace startup time improvements. So a lot of we polled a lot of customers. Again, everything that we do is focused on understanding the voice of customer and what are the things that are really going to move the needle in your day-to-day activities. And so we understood that many of the nodes are being set up to run start in a run mode configuration. And we said, okay, how can we be more efficient with available resources when set in this kind of a factor? And so looking at the workspace startup times and how we did that, we allowed for web space and terminal services obviously to be leveraging this new capability. And ultimately, we're seeing upwards of 80% improvement as well, too, in this time it takes to start up workspace on those nodes. So that, plus obviously the alarm generation distribution performance, are having a profound impact. So this is just to give you a visual of kind of what we're talking about here. So you can see the top line there is iFIX 2023. We set this up here, internal testing, where we had 100 clients there coming off of a node. And we looked at alarm flood scenarios, either 1,000, 5,000, or 10,000 alarm flood scenarios, and see, okay, how long does it take to display these alarms in the alarm summary on the 100th node within this configuration. And you can see how iFIX 2023 performed. Then we had an earlier build of 2024 about halfway through our process. Then towards the end, we were able to come to 12.459, which was pretty close to where we ended up there with the ultimate final version there. We had some updates there with the alarms INI setting, which saw as you can see, a massive improvement. And this was not just seen only internally. We actually did an extensive beta testing with iFIX 2024. We had some very high profile and very large scale customers with many, many nodes in their architecture and their application. And they were seeing 16x improvement sometimes in their alarm generation and distribution performance there with iFIX 2024 beta. So we've seen both, in our lab and also at customer facilities, massive improvements, again, supporting that enterprise level scale that we've been focusing on here at GE Digital. And now alarm generation and display, that's great, but what about also the time to remove alarms, right? So as they are dealt with and are removed there, how does it show up there on all the additional client nodes that are within the architecture? So this is also measuring the time that it takes to take from that alarm scenario, time it took to remove the alarms from the alarm summary. So you can see here a massive improvement as well too. They're just in our lab, and again, customers are seeing even better improvements there in their actual applications. So we are very confident that 2024 will have a large, profound impact. Even if you don't have a massive system, it will have a profound impact across everything that you're doing from an application perspective if you're looking to upgrade. And if you're looking to come into iFIX for the first time, there's no better time than now, really, to adopt everything that we're doing as well. So we also added some additional flexibility and capabilities around our security areas. So some of the customers, in this specific case, a metro customer, was looking at how do they leverage our security areas across multiple lines across a large metropolitan area, And so when they're looking at that and say, okay, how do we increase the flexibility? We added an additional and capability versus just the or capability. This allowed them to combine security areas and make it so that the facility operators had to meet all security areas within a list in order to have access to the various different areas. This will allow them to not have to recreate various different security settings or capabilities over and over again for each platform or station within the line, right? So ultimately, this will have a large impact for customers who are looking, again, on how they can improve their security within their application. Now, we also added some additional capabilities around our alarm counters. We evolved that capability by adding additional filtering capabilities around acknowledged versus unacknowledged alarms. You can see more of what's going on, give you more granularity in that, and you can allow for triggering of certain events, maybe a siren, maybe a report or something along those lines that can be triggered based off of the different categories here. So let's talk a little bit about our centralized remote and mobile operations, right? So as I mentioned there, we're bringing together OT and IT with what we do here within the Proficy portfolio. So the idea behind this is that ultimately can drive better informed decisions, because information is king when you're trying to make a decision. So providing the information in a more holistic fashion, providing one visualization across what would be SCADA and also enterprise level information and enterprise level visualization, bringing together, IT and OT together to provide a better capabilities around decision making is ultimately our focus, right? So ultimately, you drive faster response time, you increase the operational agility of those within your organization, and we're seeing large impact across many different sectors within what we serve, whether that's power, chemicals, water utilities, obviously building management, and also ultimately our manufacturing facilities as well too. So some of the benefits that you get in terms of enterprise SCADA, the major focus here is, creating a centralized context across OT and IT, and you'll see that in the next slide on how that actually works. But we ultimately want to make sure that you have the access to information wherever you are within the organization, whether you're using a phone, a tablet, or sitting there at a laptop. So, bringing in things like enterprise level historians, using our Proficy Operations Hub to be able to unify our visualization experience across SCADA, historian, and other, other applications there. If you wanted to bring in leverage cloud applications, you can do that. So you can have secure access to, various different parts within your organization and various different levels within the organization. And Operations Hub as a visual capability is a important tool to do that, because it has visualization all the way down to the SCADA layer and all the way up to like an enterprise level layer. So as we leverage analytics in what we do, and providing that to providing more informed decisions by doing predictive alarming or predictive maintenance and those kind of things, going forward in the future, this consolidation of what we do and what you guys do as a customer ultimately is going to drive better decisions across your organization. So by doing this, of course, that analytic approach that I mentioned there, we can do this for optimization, not just at one, node or whatnot. It can be done across your actual entire operation. So looking at centralized management, and so this is really a visual tool and aid to help explain what we're talking about here. So we have something called, if you're not already familiar, the Proficy Configuration Hub there within our Proficy portfolio. And the Configuration Hub is not a separately sold product, if you will. There's no license for it. It is a configurational utility within our Proficy portfolio. So it unifies our iFIX SCADA. It can bring in, historian. You can bring in Operations Hub from a visualization perspective. You can leverage it to do security one time across your entire application. You can do it to provide one set of visualization across your application. So, and then that can be pushed down to the various different nodes. So you can actually configure everything within iFIX within Configuration Hub. It is a web-based utility. So multiple users can work within it at one time. You can set up enterprise level security, if you will, by leveraging the Proficy authentication. So you can have multi-factor authentication capabilities that, again, are factored in for everything that you're doing there from an application perspective. So reaching into the various different factories or various different nodes within your organization, whether they're separated geographically, you can set up a configuration hub that's central to all of those facilities. So in iFIX, you can send your configuration down to multiple nodes. You can again leverage Operations Hub to provide visualization across your organization. So you can have a visualization layer that is for users who are looking across multiple facilities, for example. They can see what's going on, high level KPIs or key performance indicators at each facility. They can see trends. They can see maybe closed circuit television. You can leverage all of that. You can even use certain things like our workspace capability to provide more plant floor level visualization as well too, all within that view. Or you can separate it so that people only have view capabilities and not have the control. Again, all that it would be set up within Proficy authentication from a centralized security perspective. And as you set that all up, that will be pushed down from a project configuration and deployment perspective. You will be able to update your software and update patches or SIMs across the application, all from Configuration Hub as we move forward into the future. In 2024, we will be I'll talk about that shortly here, but We have centralized software licenses as well too. You'll be able to manage all of your licenses across your application, all from Configuration Hub. So in terms of a UX perspective, you have a common UX for configuration across what you're doing. And as you leverage more of the Proficy portfolio of tools, you have a common way to configure it, common way to deploy it, and a common way to do maintenance in the future. As you add users or subtract users, as you right size your organization, you can again deploy licenses as needed to cover the basis of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So looking now in terms of centralized management updates for 2024, centralized license management. So as I mentioned there, you can view and manage all those licenses across the system and architecture from Configuration Hub. You'll be able to deploy that as well too centrally. So why we did this is, again, we had a typical, and you still be able to have that if you will, if you still want that, but you have a server-based license approach, and you also have like an application-based license approach. So for 2024, so you can do a license and tag pooling, for instance, tag pooling for across multiple nodes, and you can set all that up for the licenses. That way, you don't have to come back to either your distributor or GE Digital to gain additional license capabilities. You can take what you already have across your organization and spread it out as needed to right size it for day-to-day activities from Configuration Hub. So all the licenses will be able to be managed there as well too. Central registration. So what we have to do in order to utilize Configuration Hub, you have to register your nodes to Configuration Hub there. And so as you register SCADA nodes, historian nodes, as well into Configuration Hub, we've made that process even easier there. We went back to the drawing board in the past there and from past experiences for 2024, and the register, unregister, migrating, upgrading components there from Configuration Hub is a much easier process than it's ever been. So again, if you're coming new into it, as I mentioned there earlier, 2024 is no better time to take advantage of all that we've been working on from a centralized management perspective. So leveraging standards like OPC UA, this is a big one for us too within our organization, within everything that we do. It's, a lot of these things are being driven by innovations that are done outside of the company, of course, right? So your OPC UA is unified architecture, where it's really being driven across industry. And so leveraging that to pull in new capabilities within our organization, talk about the redundancy aspects of it, the reliability aspects of it, because again, it is an open standard, if you will, multi-platform capabilities. And, we can leverage and access legacy systems much easier than in the past, where you had really direct access, capabilities where you had to have the exact right interface, if you will, to older legacy systems. UA allows breaking down some of those barriers that made things a little bit more difficult in the past. So you can actually really unify your architecture and provide secure connectivity and capabilities across what you're doing there and from an application perspective. So we have, again, that certificate management, all that centralized certificate management can be managed there as well too within Configuration Hub. So really, when we're looking at it there, we want to empower that user experience. So we want to give information visibility, as I mentioned there. So Operations Hub allows that to be done. You have a conceptualization of the persona. So you have persona-based visualization. So as a user signs in with their credentials that you set up and given access to through Configuration Hub and Proficy authentication, it can drive a persona-based visual experience. Obviously, it doesn't necessarily make sense for somebody who's looking across multiple facilities to see all the, day-to-day plant floor level or control room level visualization of what's going on in each of these facilities. It's probably not going to be very helpful for driving, decisions at that level. So providing a way that we can do it through centralized management, where as you set up your architecture for your organization, they can log in with their credentials, and based off of their credentials, it can generate the right level of visuals for their role. So that will ultimately drive better information visibility so that they have access to the information that's relevant for key decision making in real time. And really the idea with centralized management, with this centralization from a user experience perspective, is the flexibility to innovate. So if you're not really spending a lot of time trying to learn various different UXs, even within the tools that we have within our Proficy portfolio, you can spend more time focusing on innovations that drive your business and make a big impact for your customers on day-to-day activities. You can focus on, again, acting on alarms. We wanted to talk about frictionless workflow as you step between various different parts of our Proficy portfolio. Providing a common user experience will make that a much more seamless process. And also because it's a common UX across what we're doing, you can really trust the information and have clear responsibilities and roles for the members within your organization. There's a clear line that can be drawn, and again, it can be set up and leveraged within centralized management within Configuration Hub. So what is in it for your team? I think some of what we talked about really kind of goes over some of that in depth, but as you're looking across, your operators, your people who are maybe in your lab, or somebody who is doing more recipe management and stuff like that, and versioning and process engineers, we have additional capabilities around change management versioning that we're focusing on as a team in the coming versions as well too, from a centralized management perspective. If you're talking about developers and even remote operators, that flexible user experience and ultimately driving a responsive persona-based visual experience will be helpful for them in their role, so that you can make sure they have access to the right level of information at the right time to be able to make the right decisions. In terms of advanced alarm management, so looking at systems of OT, you're utilizing, as we mentioned there earlier, OPC-UA, MQTT, and other standards within our industry, and saying how do we bring that all together in a unified experience. So looking at alarm shelving and how do we enhance that, again, part of our enterprise level SCADA and capabilities, we've been focusing a lot on leveraging that together more holistically. So we're talking about containerization and things like that will, again, help in everything that you guys are doing in terms of taking advantage of some of the technology, especially as we look at possibility of cloud deployments as well. And then, so centralized deployment license management. So whether you're doing typical server-based licensing, or like more application or architecture level licensing, we want to provide the flexible capabilities there within our portfolio to support that. Centralized deployment of HMI SCADA capabilities, including licenses, is a major focus for what we do. Obviously project versioning is a major one as well too, disaster recovery. So as we look in terms of enhanced failover capabilities, enhanced redundancy, bringing that together with the project versioning is a major focus there for us in terms of supporting disaster recovery initiatives. Centralized registration of application nodes. Again, this is important as you utilize a web-based centralized management theme. You can have access to the various different things within the organization. So pulling information from one node to another, or if you're in terms of actually developing, you'll be able to have access to all the various different nodes without having to physically get up and relocate yourself there, or remote desktop in, being able to pull your screens, tag groups, color tables from one node to another is a major win there from a centralized management perspective. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, the tag pooling across the system. So if you come in there and you purchase a few 100,000 tags for your application, and you can deploy nodes as necessary to address those and move the amount of tags that are needed to each of these nodes as you see fit, right? Versus having to do a typical server-based licensing. So again, providing the flexibility from a centralized management perspective to really address in real time the things that you guys need to do on a day-to-day basis. Simplifying the licensing perspective, simplifying the maintenance perspective, simplifying the actual deployment and updating process as well too. So Centralized management is a major focus for us. It's being driven again by voice of customers, and that is the overwhelming voice that we're hearing from multiple customers as we spend time with them and trying to understand how can we really move the needle, especially in 2024 and beyond, in what we do here within Vernova. So just to summarize there in terms of for 2024, I mentioned how we had that responsive HMI. So that persona-based visual experience was a focus there for us as well, to leveraging that and pushing that to the next level as well from what we did from in 2023 and beyond. Decentralized deployment licensing, we mentioned those as well too. So just to recap there. And again, that performance scalability supporting the ultimate enterprise level scalability for our SCADA. And you saw the areas that we did there in terms of what we focused on in 2024. So, looking at that a little bit more in depth, just to see some of those elements there, some enhanced visualization, aspect ratio based scaling. So we had those capabilities pushing there in terms of our click zones. So ability to navigate and perform better from that perspective, from visualization perspective. Centralized management, we talked about centralized license management and how that can be beneficial to you within your organization. And then ultimately, we talked about the centralized registration improvements as well. The alarm scalability, you saw that as well from the alarm generation, distribution, and enhancements capabilities that we focused on there as a team, the workspace startup improvements. And then in terms of the flexibility of the system, it's both the security areas and alarm counters evolution. So ultimately, I just wanted to highlight some things that I know we've mentioned here, but just to make sure that you understood is, we're leveraging advisory analytics there in terms of our alarming capability. So you can look at alarm patterns through, Proficy historian. The alarms would be stored there, right? So looking at those capabilities and leveraging Proficy CSense is something that we are working on in terms of going forward as well too. So looking at the alarm patterns and say, okay, based off of this, when CSense can do PID control loop, health monitoring and optimization. So with the CSense being brought in more holistically to what we do within our portfolio, this is going to be a major area of the forefront in our future in terms of supporting your initiatives going forward. So ultimately, predictive maintenance and those things like that will be driven from, bringing that level of analytics and capability more holistically into the SCADA approach. So really, I hope that you feel that through this presentation that Proficy really is better than ever. Our focus on everything that we've been doing here, even talking about just from a support and services perspective, just allowing for enhancements in our enterprise acceleration plans, making it easier than ever to understand the capabilities that we have there in supporting you going forward. So, you see the different capabilities of phone, web, and email support, the capabilities around training. We've been focusing heavily on how we do training, and we're working tirelessly here in terms of our documentation and capabilities around, deployment. So you'll see a lot more videos have been put up there in terms of Operations Hub for a visualization perspective. We're working there in terms of more videos for Configuration Hub and the centralized management journey, helping you all to understand the capabilities that are there for you within our portfolio. And ultimately, the idea here is to look at how we can work to make sure that we ensure success for you. So you have expert customer success managers that we have within our organization to help ultimately you take advantage of everything that we do and make sure that your process is up and running 24/7, right? So that's our focus. That's what we're focused on as a team to help, again, with the services and support that you need to be successful. So, we're looking at enterprise-wide data, model and applications, again, supporting your 2024 goals. So you saw centralized management and capabilities there on how we bring that together. We are consolidating the SCADA systems, as you see there from a centralized management perspective, and again, utilizing the analytics and in automation to ultimately drive more efficient outcomes That's our focus on innovation. We want to empower your team. I want to make sure that we're driving your future towards success. So here's just a little quick QR code that you can use here to contact us and to discuss your digital transformation. We really want to be there for you to support you as you leverage more of what we're doing within the portfolio. I know, speaking to a lot of longtime customers, and you may have been doing things a certain way, and we of course want to support you with that way as well too. But we've also built in a lot of capabilities that you see there from a centralized management perspective, unifying what we do in automation, unifying what we do in Proficy to make it more of a single toolbox, if you will, that with multiple different tool sets to help you be successful in the market. So we want to definitely help with that transformation, whether it's just leveraging more of centralized management capabilities or looking at cloud-based deployments for cloud SCADA or enterprise level SCADA approaches and enterprise level historian approaches as well too. If you wanted to do those kind of things, we want to have a conversation with you on how we can help you be successful there going forward in the future. So with that, I'll turn it over here for some time of question and answer, and would like to again discuss anything that you have on your mind.